Hey trackies, welcome back to another video. Please remember to smash that subscribe button, hit the like button as well. That's how the video gets to the YouTube algorithm. Share the video if you care. I hope y'all care, so share. And yes, please sound off in the comment section below. The USA Track and Field Championships, aka Trials, right? 2025. We're excited to see exactly what our main rivals, aka Jamaica's main rivals, will be up to, once that championships begins, which starts on the 31st of July and runs through to the 3rd of August. So lots of jam-packed action over the weekend, and I have to say I'm looking forward, to the competition. I'm somebody that loves track and field, and even though I rep Jamaica all day, every day, I'm always watching and enjoying what everybody else is up to, and yeah, USA is no different, right? So I want to jump into, my thoughts, heading into the trials and, possibly, how, I do think, things may turn out. But before I do that, I want to say USA suffered a massive, massive blow when it comes to the men's 100 meters and 200 meters, where we had Fred Kerley, pull out of the championships. Now, for me, for the most part, clearly it's the 100 meters where I do think they suffer a massive blow when it comes to Fred Kerley, right? But he does compete in the 1 and the 2. So he took to his social media and he had this to say, on Twitter. He says the 100 meters should be a straight sprint. 2025 has presented many hurdles, taking some time out to get back on track. No USA champs this year, thanks to all my supporters. So yeah, massive, massive blow to Team USA and the men in the sprints. Again, Fred Kerley, he has been one of the more consistent athletes, over the last few years when it comes to USA. We're talking about 2021 silver medalist there, won in 2022 World Championship. So that was the Olympics 2021. 2022 wins the World Championships. 2024 comes back again and gets a bronze medal. So when you look at, that time frame there, Fred Kerley is one of few athletes that you were on the podium, for that, that time frame so consistently. So yeah, I think it's really a massive blow. And he highlighted that, yeah, the off track hurdles, those issues really, presented, struggles for him this year, and he's, taking time off to get right. And I do remember, when I did do the video highlighting, some of the struggles that he was going through, and I'm like, listen, Fred, you got to get your stuff together. At the end of the day, this is you, this is your brand. And I think somebody said to me in the comment section at that particular point that he was standing on business, and I was like, okay, was it worth it? And here we are, heading into the USA Championships, and he pulls out. And for me, clearly it wasn't worth it. And now you're hearing even more stories, about the reasons, behind why he actually pulled out, the kind of, I would say stress, if I should use a word, that he's been, experiencing on the back end when it comes to, those decisions, that were made, probably in haste, and in hindsight, you can look back and say, maybe I should have done, a little bit better. But nonetheless, those decisions were made, and you're seeing where it's affecting him from a monetary perspective, from a Diamond League perspective, not being able to compete in these competitions. So, from that perspective, he's pulling out, of 2025, he has court dates coming up as well. So really has to take that time out and, get whatever is going off the track situated so that he can focus 100% on the task at hand on the track and deliver, fantastic performances when he gets back in 2026. So for sure, I definitely thought, back then that he should, ensure that he gets his circle right. So I'm actually happy seeing that, he's taking time out to make sure he takes care of him. And I'm hoping that he ensures that he centers himself with the right people so that going forward, these type of things, probably won't affect him, hopefully, right? But yeah, interesting, times ahead when it comes to Fred Kerley. But as I said, I am, wishing him all the best. But that being said, Trackies, I want to dive into, my expectations for the USA Championships. I do think the men for the 100 meter take a massive blow with the withdrawal of Fred Kerley. As I said, one of the more consistent sprinters in recent times on the podium for majority of the time. The only time he was not on the podium was 2023, right? So that tells you the caliber of the athlete, right? So massive blow to Team USA. And it's kind of funny because I'm thinking about how the year started and how the year is going. And Team USA is looking like they're having one of those off years. Don't get me wrong. They have the ability to look like they're having an off year and then turn up at championships and still dust everybody, from a medal count perspective, right? But it just feels like they're having an off year, like all around the board. Like some athletes, that were really looking good, ended up with injuries, not looking as strong. Even, there are concerns about them potentially even missing the team because of these setbacks. So, when I take all these things into consideration, I'm like, surprisingly, things are not looking so good for Team USA. So I want to dive into the men's 100 meters to kick things off. And I'm keeping my eye on a couple athletes. Keeping my eye on the fastest athlete in the world for USA, Trayvon Bromell. The issue I have with Trayvon Bromell, because when I went back to him competing against Kishane Thompson at the Prefontaine Classic, right, I have an issue when it comes to consistency, I would say, without Trayvon Bromell, right? So he has the times, really, really strong execution, or he executes really well, when he's running that 100 meters. But for some strange reason, not consistent with his performances. So even though he's the fastest athlete coming in technically, as I said, he looks absolutely phenomenal as well. My concern is, the consistency that I've been seeing from him, and it may not play out, as straightforward as you may think with him at the USA Championships. But, even though, he's not showing that level of consistency. Given who he's competing against, I still think, he is shoe in for one of those spots. And it doesn't matter where you finish as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're in top 3, you're good. And remember as well that USA gets, 4 athletes. So Noah Lyles, the defending champion, has his bye. There will be 3 additional athletes for USA. So that's good going for them, right? Same thing for the 200 meters for the men as well. So again, even though, as I said, he's not that consistent, I think he will still, manage to execute on the day, hopefully in the finals, and make it in regardless of the position, right? But if he gets it right, he can definitely win. Now, the athlete that I think is the more consistent sprinter, Kenny Benerick, comes in with a time of 9.86 seconds, right? He could be a strong bid for the win here at the USA Championships. The only, problem I'm having is I haven't seen him in, a bit, and, there were reports of him, having a kind of I don't want to really say an injury setback because it didn't sound like an injury, but the mere fact that they were concerned enough to pull him out of meetings is kind of alarming to me, right? So I'm not sure what version of Kenny Benerick, turns up, but if we, get the best version of him, which we were seeing all season, then he could be in for a new personal best. And I do think that, he stands the possibility of walking away with the whole thing. Given again, as I said, I believe he's the most consistent sprinter. And a lot of times, it's not necessarily the times that make you win, but the fact that when you come in, you're a gamer and you're ready to perform and execute. And that execution will give you the win, even if it's not as fast as some of the other athletes have run. You know what I mean? So I think that's what he has going for him. And yeah, I think he goes in as favorite. Though, as I said, I'm a little concerned, with the fact that I haven't really seen him, plus in recent times, that is, and also the concern about the reports that of a possible, kind of niggle, situation going on there with his hamstring. But we move right now. For that third spot, I do think it's open, right? For that third and final spot, I am looking at athletes like, Brandon Hicklin, Courtney Lindsay. But then, there are also a few that are talking up, the collegiates as well. So we have people looking at that. T. Mars McCullum. I'm not sure if that's how his name is pronounced, but yeah, I'm just going to go with that, right? So there are persons that are looking at, is it McCullum T. Mars or T. Mars McCullum? Oh, McCullum T. Mars, sorry, right? So there are persons that are looking at him as well. But from a time perspective, this is my issue when it comes to, collegiates, right? Championships, USA Championships is a whole different ball game. It mirrors, a championships globally, which means that the rounds, you have to be able to navigate those rounds and run consistently fast to make it to the next round. So while some of these athletes, I believe, have those one-off fast times, my concern with collegiates, is whether or not they're able to replicate those performances round by round and then turn up in a finals and run their fastest to make it into the team. And I think that that's, the struggle with collegiate sometimes, but I am, keeping my eyes on them. A lot of people are touting Jordan Anthony, you know what I mean? But I'm looking out for the more seasoned athletes, let's put it that way, because from a round management perspective, I think, they stand a better chance, you know what I mean? But hey, as I said, it's an open final spot as far as I'm concerned. So let's see who gets it at the end of the day. So those are my thoughts for the men's 100 meters. For the USA Championships, let's just jump into the 200 meters. Now, this one is open, as well for me. Again, it's another event where America gets four. Noah Lyles, a defending champion. I believe Noah Lyles competes in the 200 meters, right? So let's see, how he's able to compete. Again, the rounds do matter for him, running himself into, better shape. So I'm, excited for Noah Lyles heading to the World Championships, actually, because I think it will definitely be, especially when I think about the 100 meters, he will be USA's strongest bid, for contending for one of those medals. But let's see what we get from a Kenny Benerick out of the 100 meters. The 200 meters, Kenny Benerick for me goes in, again as the favorite. However, I am still, questioning his health, right? So his 100 meters performances will tell me what to expect in the 200 meters, right? But, since that hasn't started yet, let's just go with, the straightforward saying that he potentially is the favorite, though he goes in with a 9.84. Season's best, not the fastest American. The fastest American is actually that McCullum Timor's athlete, that collegiate from Tennessee. I think actually he gets in this 200 meters here, right? The other athlete that I'm looking out for is the likes of a Courtney Lindsay, right? Let's see if he'll be able to get in. I think he gets in this 200 meters. I'm probably gonna go Kenny Benerick, Courtney Lindsay, notwithstanding what Noah Lyles does. Noah Lyles will be there someplace, right? So forget him. It doesn't matter where he places. I'm just saying Kenny Benerick, probably Courtney Lindsay, and I'm going to say McCullum Timors. And again, when it comes to these athletes, my concern, and these collegiates, as I said, my concern is whether or not they'll be able to manage the rounds as well as some of the more seasons athletes, meaning aka the pros, right? But yeah, those are my thoughts for the 2. The 4, wow, the 4, America is really, really strong in the 4. And I think this is, one of the events that I'm covering here, one of the more open events, in my opinion. So the Olympic champion, Quincy Hall, is out with an injury, right? So he will not be competing. So we have the likes of, Caleb McRae that has run a 43.91, Ja'Cory Patterson 43.98, Quincy Wilson 44.10, Chris Robinson 44.15, Chris Bailey 44.15 as well. So, when I look at these times, Bryce Deadman 44.30, Vernon Norwood 44.34, there's not much difference. There's literally not much difference between, what, some of these athletes have done, right? Maybe, just better conditions depending on where you ran, right? So I think this, 400 meters is pretty open. I have to say I was loving, Chris Bailey all season. He's been very consistent, very strong, right, for Team USA. So if I should give somebody the nod, I'm going to say Chris Bailey more than likely gets in on the team. But personally, I think this 400 meters is very open. I am keeping my eye on the young Quincy Wilson, right? My concern, and he keeps proving me wrong, even though I keep saying this is my concern when it comes to him. But it's the same thing when it comes to, these young athletes, the rounds, right? Will they be able to manage the rounds? He proved me wrong last year. He was able to manage the rounds, and get in, on the relay, team for Team USA. And he looks much better this year. Another, record set by him, under 18 record, 44.10. Third fastest American, as a matter of fact, this season as well. So even though I'm saying, the rounds is a concern for me, more than likely he's going to be fine. He's going to run well. So he's another athlete that I think, gets in. But it's going to be interesting because, as I said, there's not much difference between the performances. And yeah, going, for it, and the hungrier person will get it. So let's see. But if I'm supposed to choose 2, I'm just going to say, Chris Bailey and Quincy Wilson. Let's see what Ja'Cory Patterson. I've liked what I saw from Ja'Cory Patterson as well, especially for unsponsored athlete. I'm not sure if he's sponsored now, but at the time he wasn't sponsored when he ran at 43.98. Right. But let's see, what these athletes come with. I think this 400 meters is going to be absolutely show stopping. It's probably going to be one of the more exciting, competitions, given how close the athletes are competing. And I love competition. I live for competition. So I'll be eating my popcorn and going and seeing what they have to offer, for sure. So the last event that I want to cover on the men's side is the men's 110-meter hurdles. America gets 4 here. Grant Holloway, the defending champion. It's kind of weird. This season has not looked as dominant as I thought it would look for Team USA in the 110-meter hurdles, though they have Cardell Tinch, that is the world leader, with that 12.87 seconds that he did in China. I was like, whoa, that was a crazy run. But Cardell Tinge is not the most consistent athlete as well, right? I think the most consistent athlete here is Trey Cunningham. Really executes strongly, and he's, pretty much ran his PB maybe 3 times already this season, right? 13.00 seconds. So Trey Cunningham for me goes in as the strongest bid, for a spot in this men's 110-meter hurdles, right? I think Carter Tinch, will be competing strongly as well. Let's see if Dylan Beard, will be able to get on the team to represent Team America. That would be crazy for him. You have to look out for the collegiate athlete, Jacoby Tharp. He's been having a fantastic year, won the NCAA championship. So, it's going to be interesting. Jamal Britt is going to be there as well. Freddie Crittenden. So there are quite a number of athletes that are really, really good. And as I said, notwithstanding whether or not Grant Holloway will be competing here, and where he places, I'm just interested in everybody else because, as I said, it doesn't matter. As long as you qualify, and there's some time between now and the World Championships to tweak, so, some more and get right for the World Championships. And we can think about, the World Championships when we get there. But for now, I'm eyeing, Trey Cunningham, Cardell Tinge. And you know what? I am actually thinking that Jacoby Tharp, strange enough, may surprise. May surprise. I'm thinking that Jacoby Tharp may surprise in this men's 110-meter hurdles. But let's see how it goes. I'm excited for what is to come. Chakis, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. So this is my view from the sprints perspective for Team USA on their trials. Let me know your thoughts. As I said, like the video and subscribe to the channel. I'll catch you on the next one.